Hello, Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here, and welcome to the channel. Let's have a discussion, shall we? And I've got a feeling I'm going to regret this, but here we go. Good God. Do you ever get that situation where in your mind something sounds really, really good, and then it comes to reality, and then you think, my God, that was absolutely awful? Do you know what? I'm very lucky. That has never, ever happened to me. So I'm really happy about that. Anyhow, moving on. Yes, welcome to the Discuss Livestream, where we get I've thrown myself off with an intro now. I really have. So yes, welcome to the Discuss Livestream, where we have a topic of discussion and I get someone to jump in and discuss said topic. And luckily we've got a topic and I've got a guest for tonight. But before I get the guest on, let's say hello to the chat. So who we got? Des T, evening all. Hello, Des. Nice you to join us. Thank you very much. We've got Kieran Ball. Hello, Kieran. How are you? Nice you to join us. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, Georgie. Hoping you're well. And I normally say that and say, well, I know how you're doing because I saw you about 5 minutes ago. But Georgie's been out all day and I've not seen her since about 10 o'clock this morning. So Georgie was crewing at the Great Conjunction. So, yeah, awesome stuff. So, yeah, that went really well. And then we've got Martin, Cry Havoc and Let Slip the Dogs of War. Yes, yeah, great saying that. Awesome stuff. Thank you very much. Hit that like button and live long and prosper. Thank you very much, Kieran. Very much appreciated. I don't know about that, Steph, but yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that. What's this? Bloody hell, next door. See, this is what happens when you do opera on Shabby's live stream or ZSR. So yeah, it pays off. It pays off. So what's this? Oh, yeah. Parting is such sweet sorrow, Captain. Have we not heard the chimes at midnight? Yeah, again, he's full of quotes, isn't he, old Martin? Blimey. What else we got? I think that's it. Oh, hang on. Hello. We got Jason. Hello, Jason. How are you? Nice you to join us. Okay, then. Right. That's it for the chat for the time being. Let's get our guest on. It is Mr. Scott Whitehouse. Hello, Scott. I saw you chuckling in the background there.
Hi, Stu. Yeah, that wasn't bad, actually.
It wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was awful. Absolutely awful. What's this, Mum? Are you wearing your pants too tight, Stu? Yeah. Very good. Very good. What was that terrible noise at the beginning? You just shush. There's nothing wrong with that. It's all right. I don't know poor Steph had trouble with that her hearing. Oh, I didn't know poor Steph had trouble with her hearing. Yeah, well, what can I say? Star Trek 6, the greatest Star Trek. Is it? We'll discuss that. But oh, hang on, one more. What's this? Wasn't bad. It wasn't good. Thanks a lot. Cheers. I'll tell you what I did do, though. It did throw me. I've got to say, it did throw me. Right, Scott, so we're here to talk about Star Trek. So let's just see why you like Star Trek. Because we were discussing, weren't we, that not many people really talk about Star Trek within our community.
No, that's right. I mean, I know a few people have mentioned it in passing that they like a bit of Star Trek. And I know Shabby's talked about liking Strange New Worlds, but's never seen any other Star Trek. But for me, as a kid of about 4 or 5, I remember Star Trek. So I've kind of grown up with it like I did Star Wars. I mean, as you know, we used to watch at home. My dad and I would watch it either in the lounge one week on the colour telly, and then we'd have to watch it in the kitchen on the little black and white because Mum wouldn't watch it. So we'd take it in turns, and you know, so I can vividly remember that. And he took me to see the motion picture in 1979. I'd only been 4 or 5 then, but I've still got a few sort of quite vivid memories of the special effects and the probe that goes around on the inside of the ship, the noise that it makes, and such. So yeah, Star Trek's been with me throughout my life, really. I love it. I think it's brilliant.
I was I saw like some of the original series on TV, but I didn't really sort of like pay it too much attention. I'd seen all the Star Trek movies from 1 to 6. Then I went to see Generations because I was like sort of like watched a little bit of Star Trek Next Generation. And do you know what? It was Generations that got me back into watching the whole of the original series. So yeah. So that was pretty cool. So I enjoyed that. What's this? No need to discuss facts, Stu. Behave. George Aiken, hello, sir. How are you? Nice you to join us. Thank you very much. Deep Space Nine, the GOAT series. Well, that is one thing we can agree on, Martin. Absolutely.
Yeah, as well.
What's this? Did anyone read William Shatner books that he did after Generations? No, I haven't.
I did read a couple, but it was when they came out. The Star Trek Memories, Star Trek Movie Memories, and they were really good. And he was quite honest in those, and he dealt with the fact that some of the cast, weren't that keen on him, really.
Yeah. Well, we've heard rumours, and we can get into those as well.
Yeah.
We'll get into those. So my mum's put, I remember the Tribbles, Stuart. We'll know why. Yes, well, bless her. So mum went to have her haircut one day, and she came back, and I just looked at her and started laughing. And my mum goes, "What are you laughing at?" And of course, my dad was there, and I said, "It looks like she's got one of those Tribbles on her head." It was just what it looked like. So it was quite amusing. But shall we have some fun facts about Star Wars? Look at that, Star Trek. So for those of you who don't know, and you might not know this, Scott, but Star Trek is an American science fiction television series created by Gene Roddenberry that follows the adventures of the starship USS Enterprise NCC 1701 and its crew. It acquired the name of Star Trek, the original series, or TOS, to distinguish the show within the media franchise, because after Star Trek, you had Star Trek Next Generation and blah, 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 blah. The main theme was composed by Alexander Courage and beautifully sung by me for this intro. I thank you. That's okay. All right. So the show is set in the Milky Way galaxy between 2266 and 2269. The ship and the crew are led by Captain James T. Kirk, William Shatner, First Officer and Science Officer Spock, Leonard Nimoy. See, even then they were doubling up on duties, weren't they? I bet you weren't getting paid any extra for that. So, they saw the future coming, didn't they, back then? And Chief Medical Officer Leonard H. McCoy, or Bones, DeForest Kelly. Shatner's voice over introduction during each episode. Each episode's opening credits slated the starship's purpose. So here we go. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life forms and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before. And of course, with Star Trek The Next Generation, that dialogue was altered, wasn't it? So there you are. It ran for 3 seasons from 1966 to 1969 with a budget of $190,000 for season 1, $185,000 for season 2, and $175,000 for season 3, with a total of 79 episodes. Its production company was, I think I pronounced this correctly, Desilia or Desuli Productions from 1960. How do you pronounce it? Desilu Productions from 1966 to 1968, and Paramount Television from 1968 to 1969. It was originally released on the NBC network on September the 3rd, 1966 to June the 3rd, 1969. So, do you have anything to add to those? Or to that, Scott?
No, not really. I mean, Desilu, the name comes from Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball. Lucille Ball was she put her own money into the original pilot episode of Star Trek,
right?
So that's sort of where that company came from, and they eventually they bought out by, or they sold themselves to Paramount, and that's sort of when Paramount's Star Trek began. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, hello. We've got John Maguire. Hello, John. How are you? Nice you to join us. And Kevin Ball's put the original pilot episode was rejected. Lucille Ball paid for the second pilot out of her own money. Wow. See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So yeah, I mean, because it's strange. You get seasons 1 and 2, and they had quite a few episodes in them, and then season 3 there wasn't that many episodes, and then all of a sudden it just vanished. They just cancelled it.
Yeah, well, there was a. I mean, it nearly got cancelled at the end of the first season. There was a massive campaign to keep it going, and it came back for a second, and then it got stuck into like a graveyard slot. And during the third season, they were putting on Friday nights at 10 p.m. So nobody was watching, and it was all about the ratings, and so that was kind of the graveyard slot. Really, Gene Roddenberry pulled back from, his involvement with it, and so that was sort of the death knell for it really at the time. And like a lot of shows of the 60s, they finished and were forgotten. But Star Trek, there was something about it that the fans kept it going, and it kind of persevered.
Well, it got its success through syndication, didn't it? So all the replays and stuff like that. So then it sort of like it really got popular through a syndication.
Yeah, it made an absolute fortune in syndication for them.
So why do you think no one watched it then? And why was no one interested? What are your thoughts?
I think it was the slot. I mean, in the third season, the stories are not as good. You haven't got, you've lost. I mean, everyone remembers Gene Roddenberry as the creator of Star Trek, but there was another Gene L. Coon, who came in during the first season as kind of like what you call a showrunner.
Yeah.
Now. And he was responsible for a lot of the really memorable stories, some of the ideas, things like the Prime Directive, and he brought the Klingons in and such like. And so he was absolutely critical, and he left as well towards the end of the second season. So with his influence gone, I think the stories they're not as good. There are some standout ones in the third season, but they're not as good.
Yeah.
But it's that 10 p.m. slot, and all these shows were competing against one another, and it just didn't rate. It just didn't do so well, despite letter writing campaign. It just wasn't getting the ratings.
Yeah, it's a shame because I didn't find it too bad, to be honest with you. The first time I saw The Next Generation, it was a poster in a video store in the late 80s. Didn't get shown on TV till the 90s. Wow. Okay. Blimey.
Yeah, I remember.
Blimey. So I've got some slides. Wow, going up in the world. Look at this. So here we have some of the cast and crew from the original series. So this that's Jeffrey Hunter, isn't it, who played Captain Christopher Pike in the pilot episode.
Yeah.
So was it you who mentioned that they Kieran, he mentioned that it was rejected the first time round. So again, was it something that people just weren't interested in?
Well,
obviously.
It was never shown. It was never shown publicly. It was just rejected by the executives, who just sort of thought they basically thought the story was too cerebral, too cold, and they just didn't go for it. Really, they didn't like all of the characters in there. So it didn't get seen until it was reused and edited into the only 2-part episode in the original series called The Menagerie.
That's it, yeah.
And they edit those, some of those scenes in to create a sort of a courtroom drama around Spock taking Captain Pike back to this planet that appears in the cage. So and that was the first time it was seen. Then subsequently, it did get released on video, and it's there to see now on Paramount Plus or on your Blu-rays or whatever.
Yeah. Because Jeffrey Hunter didn't come back to play the role of Christopher Pike, did he? There was another actor, and I can't remember who that guy was. So.
Oh yeah, no, I can't remember who it was. He's only in the chair. He's just in the chair in that episode. The Menagerie.
Yeah.
They've explained it away by him having radiation burns and such like.
Which I thought was quite clever how they did that. I mean, the art of storytelling was certainly there back then, wasn't it? With this series.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're fantastic stories. I mean, it's high class adventure. But they're also morality plays, aren't they, as well? You're dealing with the issues of the time, coded, hidden behind a science fiction veneer. You're dealing with the Vietnam War and civil rights and the danger and fear of technology and such like, prejudice. You're dealing with all of these things, but hidden in 300 years in the future. So they're absolutely brilliant. Entertainment. I mean, as a 5-year-old kid, you're not necessarily picking up on the morality parts of it. You're enjoying it for the action, and there's plenty of that. And even the special effects were good for the time, and
well, of course, yeah.
When we were watching in the 70s and early 80s, it was on TV. It was probably, I mean, it wasn't Battlestar Galactica, was it? But it was still fun to see. And now, of course, we can watch them with the remastered special effects that they've done. When I watch it on Paramount or something, you've got those new special effects which are in keeping but updated. Yeah,
it doesn't take anything away from the original, the actual series, does it? It being remastered?
Not at all. It adds a little bit more detail. It's kind of like things that they'd have liked to have done if they could have done, but they've kept the aesthetic the same. They've not drastically changed the design of the ship. Yeah. It's quite nice. They add a few more. You see a few more ships or some slightly different planet designs where they reused a lot of planets, or there's couple of episodes you see an asteroid. Like it's the same asteroid used, but they're different.
Yeah.
They're different effects now, and that's quite good. I was watching one earlier, and a planet's destroyed by a supernova, and that was really good. So you just didn't see things like that.
How you doing, Dean? Thank you very much for joining us, mate. Really do appreciate that. He says, "How are we, guys? A topic and a toy line I love." And we get into the toys as well. We'll save that to the end. We've got Keith Knight. All right, me old mucker. How you doing? Nice you to join us. Thank you very much. So after the pilot series, they ran with it, didn't they? And then they started doing, season 1. And then this time it was William Shatner as Captain James T. Kirk. Now, what did you think of him as a character?
He's the ultimate hero, isn't he? Really, he's a brilliant character. He was modelled on. Roddenberry modelled him on Horatio Hornblower. That was the kind of idea of sort of naval captains. And he's another one of those kind of mythic heroes, isn't he? Really?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
He's not only he's not only prepared to go in with his fists, but he goes in with his brain as well. At times. I think he's just an absolutely fantastic character. I think Shatner did a brilliant job with him.
I think he did. I thought he did all right. And what I love about a lot of these shots that you're going to see is the lighting, because it always had the, it's quite dark around the face, but the eyes rather were all sort of like always, lit up and stuff like that, or they were, lighted or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. What's this? So Kieran's put Jeffrey Hunter. His wife forced him to leave the second pilot and make more movies instead. It was during one of those movies that he was injured and by special effect. Oh, blimey. Okay. Wow. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Crikey.
I knew he died. No, yeah, didn't know.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Wow. What's this? We had six bloody howling at the front door with that open. Shush your noise, Dad. No, you didn't. You loved it. Unbelievable. This used to be on BBC One on weekdays at 7 p.m. in the late 70s, then on BBC Two at 6 in the mid 80s. Well, there you are.
Yeah, I think that's how I always picked it up when it was on. I'd be watching it, I think, all through the 80s. And so, yeah.
Forgot the dogs. Yeah, I'd noticed that. Yeah. No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And again, I thought Shatner was I thought he did very well. He's had a lot of Mickey taken out of him, isn't he, with the way he talks and stuff like that. And he's probably his overacting, so to speak. And he hangs on certain words and there's lots of pauses and stuff like that.
I suppose so, but I think that's all a little bit that's still a bit blown out of proportion, isn't it? Really, the overacting side of him. He's a much better actor than he's given credit for. He was a sort of a Shakespearean actor, wasn't he? He's done a lot of TV and the odd film as well before he went into Star Trek. So he's a pretty accomplished actor.
Yeah. No, I thought he'd done a great job, and he was very much the ladies' man, wasn't he?
Of course,
in the series,
But yeah, girl in a
Oh, yeah, literally. Have been lucky to meet Mr. Shatner, great guy. So, see, that's the thing, and I wish I'd have met him. I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to meet William Shatner, but I tell you what, I've had the opportunity to meet our next guy, and that is Leonard Nimoy as Mr. Spock, and he was at an MCM London many years ago, and I sort of like £80 for a signature, no chance. I wish I'd have paid £80 for his signature. That is relatively cheap for these days. But again, he was in the the pilot episode, and I thought he was quite wooden with his acting. But then he kind of through season 1, he kind of eased into it, and I thought he became a lot better as an actor.
Definitely, I don't think they quite knew what they were doing with the Spock character, because he also laughs and smiles, so he shows emotion. And he does in the second pilot, which is called Where No Man Has Gone Before as well. He kind of shows some emotion in that. And they even refer to him as Vulcanian for a few episodes early on in the first season. They're still sort of forming an idea of what Spock is and what he represents. And I don't think they he's a bit of an oddity to start with, and then various things come in. I think it's the second season before the Live Long and Prosper even, and that came from Nimoy. So much of what became the Spock character was sort of brought into it by Nimoy himself. Such complete dedication to the part, to the character, that, you know, I mean, he brought out an autobiography called "I Am Not Spock" many years later, and then he brought out one a few years later called "I Am Spock," and I think it kind of reflected his kind of love-hate relationship with the character.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah. Because I mean, they did get they did get typecast, didn't they? In a way.
To some extent, I think they certainly feared it. I think there were certainly times, and I know when there was talk of a second Star Trek series in the 70s, it eventually became the film, but there was talk that Nimoy was not keen to come back because he didn't want to be typecasted into that. And at that point, he was appearing, you know, he was appearing in films and such like. But I think a lot of them also knew that they're, you know, sort of, you know, which side their bread was buttered on. That they knew that Star Trek had given them their fame, and it was their well. So it's a lot of people are like that, aren't they? They fear the typecasting, but also the typecasting is their kind of their way to get some fame, isn't it, as well? Or to be recognized, or to keep in work, for actors to keep in work is, you know.
But I thought he was a very thought out, well played character, and I liked his character development through the series. Like I said, from the first episode, the pilot episode, he did seem very wooden, but then he kind of like you say, because of like Leonard Nimoy. I mean, Leonard Nimoy was an intelligent guy anyway, wasn't he? You know, so he brought so much to that character.
Yeah, talented actor, writer, director. Obviously, we'll get onto the movies later on as well. I mean, he was completely invested in character, and he just put so much into Spock.
Definitely.
He didn't just turn up ears on and read the lines, did he? You know, he cared about that character.
No, he did. He did. Right, let's just quickly catch up with the chat. Hello, everyone. Everyone, did you all enjoy the howling? Shush your bloody noise, otherwise I'll come around your door and start singing at you later. Bloody river. The third season was taken over by the same guy who did Space 1999. Ooh, did not know that either. Look at all this knowledge here. Twilight Zone episode with the plane gremlin is Shatner at his best. Yeah, I've seen that one. That's the only Twilight Zone one I've seen, I think. What's this? Hello, Fred. You should have had a warning before you started singing. Yeah, cheers. Sorry, Scott.
No, just the name of the Twilight Zone episode. I think it's Nightmare.
Oh, okay. Kieran's put Martin Landau was the original choice for Spock, but he turned it down. Later on, Nimoy would also replace Landau on Mission Impossible. Again, did not know that. And both Shatner and Nimoy, I tell you, yeah, I know. And funny you should bring that up, because I was going to just ask you, Scott, have you heard William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy's album?
I have heard. I've seen Shatner sing "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds," and that is something monstrous.
Yeah, no, he doesn't sing. He talks it. That's not singing, Scott.
Yeah.
What I did at the beginning of the intro, that was singing.
Well, yeah. Nimoy does a Bilbo Baggins song, and that is
the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins. Yeah,
but bloody awful.
But the thing is, it's so iconic because so. I just deviate a little bit, but I used to work in a place where we was allowed to listen to a radio, and it was during the Ashes or something like that. And all I listened to for like days and days was cricket on the radio, and I was like, "This is bloody boring." Absolutely hated it. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to get my boss back. So I bought the CD of these two singing and played it day in, day out. And do you know what? He absolutely loved it, and I ended up liking it as well. We listened to it every day for years. Oh, yeah. So who's this? Hello, Jonathan. How are you, sir? Nice you to join us. Somehow he returned. It's Pod Racing Palpatine. Hello there. Hello. How are you? Nice you to join us. But yeah, their singing's definitely a lot to be desired. That's for sure. Right. Moving on. We have Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelly as Dr. Leonard H. McCoy, or Bones. I mean, again, I just love this guy. I'm a doctor, damn it, not a bricklayer. I'm a doctor, damn it, not an escalator. It was so funny. Every series he'd come out with some like line, and the chemistry between him and Spock I thought was superb.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's possibly my favorite Star Trek character. I think
really.
I mean, the three of them together. I mean, they're kind of like they're absolutely wonderful together. I mean, they were lucky to get three actors with great chemistry and three well-written parts that play off each other so really well. But his kind of cantankerous Southern gentleman doctor is the kind of character that appeals to me. And he has a fantastic relationship with Jim, and he has a fantastic relationship with Spock. And you just watch that, the way they have the barbed jokes at one another's expense, the humor. But then, I mean, I was watching an episode earlier today, and McCoy's been diagnosed with he's going to die in 12 months. Obviously, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And only Kirk knows, and then he tells Spock, and Nimue and Dr. McCoy wakes up, and Spock just puts his hand on his shoulder. And for the Spock character, the unemotional Spock character, do that, and Jim just looks at Bones and he says he knows, and it's and I found that really emotional. I think it's just their performances really do that, and this is like a 1968 TV show. They brought so much to those characters, and I think he was exceptionally good. He was exceptionally good.
I mean, like you say, the dynamic between the three of them, I just thought was absolutely fantastic, and it not only for the series, but it carried through into the films as well, which I found I found pleasing. That was great, and it, like I say, you're just fantastic acting, and take your hats off to them because
absolutely,
just they made the parts believable.
Yes, yeah. Despite the fact that there they are in these bright coloured clothes on these garish sets, in a science fiction setting, but they put their all into it. They're high caliber actors who are taking the content seriously, aren't they? Really, and that's I think it's the power of the performances that's one of the things that kept the show going. That is what people wanted more and more of it for. And again, you're absolutely right. You get through the films, you see them aging and going through various other things, and they're there for each other, aren't they? And some of the best moments in Star Trek V are the three of them having their camping trip to Yosemite.
Yeah. I mean, we get to the films in a bit, but the characters were so different as well, weren't they? You had like you say, Kirk was the swashbuckling captain, the ladies' man and stuff like that. You had Spock, who's just logical, logic dictated everything. And then you had McCoy, who was just like a real grumpy old git, didn't really like space, did he? Because he didn't like using the transporters or anything like that. But all three of those characters put together.
Yeah, he's the real heart of it. He's the, he's the moral compass, really. Between Kirk and Spock. And again, onto the films, but there's a brilliant moment in Star Trek 2 where that's highlighted, really. Yeah.
Right, let's just quickly get to the chat again. So George Aikens, but come on, Shatner is a better singer than Cliff Richard. Sorry to offend Keith. I'm sure Keith will think William Shatner is a better singer than Cliff Richard. Pod Racing Palpatine, the three of them together are the ego, super ego, and the ID. Kirk needs Spock and McCoy. They are the logic and the passion that help him make command decisions. Yeah, absolutely. Nothing Next Christmas like a Shatner Claus album. Oh, I didn't even know he did one. There you go. How dare you, Stuart? How dare you, Stuart? I can't even read. How dare you? Shatner Claus is a stone cold classic. Well, blimey. There you are. Didn't know that. Didn't know that. Right, moving on. We have Michelle Nichols as Uhura. And I thought she was absolutely fantastic. She was the comms chief, wasn't she? So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was. I mean, the rest of the cast don't have as much to do. I mean, it was really about those main three.
Yeah.
But they're there throughout, and they do have moments in a lot of episodes, and some of them get their own little developed stories. But I mean, I think that the point about Uhura is that it was a woman in a position of authority, and also a black woman at that time in America. That she was groundbreaking. It was absolutely groundbreaking that she was there, and that I was reading something about Star Trek the other day, and it talked about something called quiet normalcy. How just very quietly, no great fanfare, no one's making a fuss, but there's a black woman there in the senior team of the Starship Enterprise. And that's normal in that time, and I think that's and it does that throughout. I mean, that's happening throughout.
Definitely.
People of different races and men and women working together, throughout, and obviously that was part of it. Part of the message of Star Trek, is that it was kind of progressive or idealistic. That that it's going to be a better future where there's where racism doesn't exist, for instance. No,
I mean, I thought that was quite clever, Gene Roddenberry, to write that and to think like that within a TV series, because obviously there was a lot going on in the world at the time and previous to Star Trek coming out. So for him to think about that and think, well, because we say there's a comparison between Star Trek and Star Wars. For me, Star Wars is set in a galaxy a long time ago, and Star Trek is based on Earth, and it could be a future Earth. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? This could happen in the future. Yes. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how you see it.
Absolutely. I mean, Star Trek is a reflection of contemporary times. Star Wars isn't or shouldn't be, as far as I'm concerned, a reflection of modern of now. I mean, obviously it does. There are things about Star Wars that reflect the 70s, aren't there, that we see in it. And now there's been a lot of discussion around some of the recent Disney
Mr.
shows.
B.
Hi, Mr. B.
Hi, Bobby Hicks as well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, lost my train of thought then. Sorry.
Apologies.
That's all right.
About the differences between Star Wars and Star Trek.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Whereas Star Wars isn't about that, is it at all? Star Wars is is an adventure. It's like it's being told to us like a myth, like a legend, something that happened a long time ago in galaxy far. It's like Greek myths or something, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Star Wars. Whereas Star Trek, Roddenberry set out to tell a story that is, of a possible positive future for mankind, where at the time we've got through things like the Vietnam War and racial prejudice and sexism, and we haven't destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons and so on. And that was the future he was postulating. We've learned to live together and work together in harmony and go out and explore the galaxy and try and take that with us. It's a kind of a bit of an evangelizing mission that they're out on, to try and get other people to join the Federation and behave the same way. But that Star Trek set out to do that, to show us a better version of ourselves, I suppose. Yeah.
And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but was Kirk and Uhura's kiss the first kiss between a black female and a white male?
I think on TV. Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
Either on TV or on syndicated TV or something like that. But it was. It was something substantial that happened. Yeah. So
wow.
I mean, the story around Nichelle Nichols, that she wasn't happy with the way her character was going in the story. She was going to leave, but she was at a civil rights conference or something at the weekend, and Martin Luther King told her to stay in the show. He said, "This show is the only thing that we let our children watch. We sit down together as a family and watch it, and seeing you there on the bridge of that ship is so important." And she always told that story. Probably everyone here who like Star Trek has heard that story, but that's quite remarkable that that the leader of the civil rights movement in America felt that she had that important part to play in normalizing people of different races.
I mean, the thing is, even when I was a kid watching it, I didn't think anything of it. Do you know what I mean? Again, you don't, when you're a kid, you don't think of the politics behind stuff, do you? And what you just watch it because it's a spaceship. They're in space, and you've got all these great characters and stuff like that. And that's all I ever saw it as. I didn't think of anything else other than that.
And that's the quiet normalcy about it, I suppose. They weren't sort of pushing it down your throat. Although there are episodes. I mean, there's the episode where there are two guys. One's a revolutionary, the other's like a police commissioner. He's chasing him across space, and the one guy's black on the left side, white on the other, and then the other.
Yes, I know the character. Yeah,
and the total absurdity of that, is why they eventually take them back to their world, and everyone on the planet's dead. They've destroyed themselves. So they're the last two, and it's just showing the utter absurdity of racism in that sense. So in a sense, that story's, you could say that's pushing that on you, but that
I guess
I really like the phrase "quiet normalcy," that you're just seeing all those people, working together without great fanfare, without pointing a finger at it. It's just normal. Yeah.
Right. So just quickly catch up. Being forced to listen to Cliff Richard is a punishment for shoplifting in some countries. BBC Two famously banned the episode where she kissed. Oh, wow.
Did they? Oh, my God.
Wow.
What year was that then, Kieran?
Blimey. Crikey. Go on now, look at them. God,
That's shocking.
now look at him. Yeah.
I know they banned Next Generation. There was an episode of the Next Generation they either didn't show at all or edited because there's a mention of Northern Ireland and the IRA having basically forced Ireland to be unified.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
right.
So in the 90s, the BBC, I don't know if they didn't show the whole episode or
They just edited it. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of time. I think I had to buy the video to see that.
Of course, Roddenberry was also romancing her in real life behind his wife's back. Again, didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, he was a bit of a womanizer. Yeah.
As Will Wheaton says, what's this? Her and Kirk were the first mixed couple kiss on TV. Eh? No. Yeah, well, apparently so.
Yeah, I think
he's been. Yeah. I thought it was Clint Eastwood and the orangutan. Was it? Oh, for goodness sake.
He kisses a few aliens as well in the series. So.
He does, doesn't he? I mean, he weren't bothered, was he? Oh
no. I mean, they're usually big, glamorous, attractive alien women, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Right. Several episodes of original Star Trek that had been banned were eventually shown in the 80s. Oh, okay.
I didn't know that, Kieran. That's
interesting. No. Right, moving on then. We have James Doohan as Montgomery Scott. Again, I thought he was a fantastic actor. I thought he played the part well. So much so that I couldn't believe he was Canadian.
Yes, yeah.
You know, I thought he was Scottish because I thought he didn't do a bad job. Mind you saying that I hadn't heard many Scottish people talk at that time, but yeah. Again, I just thought a great actor.
Yeah, brilliant. And he originated the idea that Scotty would be Scottish. He said they originally wanted him to play him as English, and he said, well, all the best engineers are Scottish. So he probably also happened to do a decent Scottish accent. So So they gave him the part and made Scotty Scottish for that. Just because of that. And I think. But
again, he wasn't one of the main characters, but I mean, he was in it enough for him to be noticed. It's the same with all the characters. You got your three main characters, but then everybody else had all big parts to play anyway, didn't they? And he was no different.
Yeah. And Scotty's probably the third most important. I mean, Scotty's sort of essentially the third in command. He'll always be called to the bridge. If Kirk and Spock are incapacitated or something. Yes, and of course he's running the ship as well. So yeah, he's an important character. He gets a lot of moments. He gets an episode, sort of kind of focused on him, Wolf in the Fold, which involves Jack the Ripper in space. Yes. But it's just a slightly bonkers one. But it's a good story. It's a good episode.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
he was nicknamed the Miracle Worker, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. So how long is it going to take? Well, sorry, go on.
But he's the I was just going to say he's the first one that I've met of them. In fact, he's the only one of them.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
The original series cast that I've met many years ago at a convention in Leeds. So yeah, just when the Next Generation episode Relics that he was in had come out.
Yes. Yeah.
He was there signing stuff for that, and he was lovely. I mean, he kept an audience captivated for 2 hours on stage.
Wow.
And then got a chance to meet him and get his autograph and such like. And in those days, you didn't pay extra for an autograph or to meet someone. Just part of your entry to the weekend. So he was brilliant.
Did you know that after Star Trek had finished, there was a YouTube series that picked up from where the original Star Trek left off? And they were all playing the same the characters, Kirk, Spock, and whatever. And James Doohan's son actually played Scotty in that YouTube series. Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't.
So yeah. So that's pretty cool. It's basically just carrying on the stories of the original Starship Enterprise and stuff like that from the original series, which I thought was pretty cool.
There's a few of those fan films and things like that around. There's quite a lot of that around. I haven't watched very much of it, but
it went on for quite a while, I believe. They did quite a few series. I think they might have done 2 seasons. If I'm correct, I'm not too sure, but yeah, they did quite a few series, episodes rather, should I say? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he was called the Miracle Worker because if he knew something was going to be like it's going to take 5 days to fix, he always doubled that and said, I was going to take 10 days to fix it, but I'll do it for you in 5 or something like that. So do you know what I mean? I thought that was quite clever.
Yeah.
How we did that. But yeah, right.
He's a great character.
Definitely. Who's this? Right. We have George Takai as Hikaru Sulu. He was the helmsman, was he the helmsman?
Yeah, he's the helmsman.
Yes, he was. Yeah. Again, I thought he was a decent character, and I liked him quite a bit. He again did a good job, played an important part.
Yeah, he's a great actor in quite a small role, and there's lots of episodes that he's not in as well. But he does get some good stories as well, and some fun stuff to do all through the 3 seasons. He gets things to do. So yeah, he's
very distinct voice as well, isn't he?
Yes.
Very distinct voice.
Yeah.
So I thought he was a decent character. Hang on a minute, what's this? Love it how Spock, Bones, and Scotty have jet black hair. Not a hint of grey anywhere. That sounds like jealousy, Des. Sounds like jealousy, mate. Wow. Beam me up, Scotty. A phrase never actually used in Trek. Wow. Again, is that right?
That is right. Star Trek 4, Jim says, Scotty, beam me up.
Right.
But he doesn't say beam me up, Scotty. That's the closest they ever got.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, so it's one of those myths that emerged somewhere at some point. I don't know where and when, but beam me up, Scotty is,
And while I remember, Sulu had a fascination for vintage weapons, didn't he? Like the old muskets and the swords and stuff like that, and those kind of weapons.
There's one episode where where the crew all they get infected by some sort of parasite and they all start acting up, and he's running around the Enterprise topless with a sword, thrashing a sword around. So I think.
I mean, you mentioned that. I mean, some of them episodes were as cheesy as, and you just thought, oh my god. There was one where I think, was it Spock or Kirk that was on all fours, and that little guy was on top of him, and they're acting like a horse or something like that.
God, yeah, that one. I think
that's
the one with the Kirk Uhura kiss, bizarrely. But yeah,
it's
not a very good episode. Plato's stepchildren, I think, is that
one. That's the one. Yeah.
It's not one I watch very often because it's not very good, really. But some of them are pretty ropey. There's they get them doing some silly stuff. There's I'm Mud, which is, I think it's the episode straight after The Trouble with Dribbles, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
But then you've got I'm Mud, and they're all sort of like dancing around, and there's some real silliness in some of them. Yeah, but others are deadly serious though. So
because there was another one where Kirk and Spock had to do that little jig and dance, didn't they, or something like that as well?
God.
I don't know what that one. I think that might have been Plato's stepchildren as well. I'm not too sure.
It might be the same one. Yeah, it might be.
Yeah.
That one is a pretty hopeless episode. Against the 3rd season, where the writing isn't as good for the most part. Yeah. So Jason's put some of the eps show Earth, but not our Earth, and shows how things could have gone. Yeah, absolutely, they did. Definitely. Right, who we got next then? We got, what's this? Shore Leave with the giant white rabbit. Again, it's just some daft stuff going on. But
so this is sorry, Scott, what was that, mate?
Sorry, mate, I was just going to say, it's explained that it is a pleasure planet where anything you wish for will appear.
Yeah.
So Sulu samurais, and he gets chased by a samurai. And
That's
such
it.
Like. So it's kind of accepted silliness in that you've got it's kind of a version of a holodeck type story.
Yeah, well, we didn't see any of the holodecks, did we, back in the original series?
No,
They didn't have them back then, did they? It was, that hadn't been thought of then. But this is Majel Barrett, and she was Christine Chappell, Nurse Christine Chappell. She was also number 1 in the pilot episode as well.
That's right, yeah, that's right.
And then later on, she went on to play, is it Luxana Troy, Deanna Troy's mother in Star Trek Next Generation? So she gets about a bit in the Star Trek universe, doesn't she? So
she certainly does.
Again, she's married to Gene Roddenberry.
Married to Gene Roddenberry, I mean, I'm not sure if she was married to him at the time she made the pilot episode. I'm not quite sure when they were married, but so apparently the story was that after the pilot episode, The Cage, Roddenberry was given a bit of an ultimatum. You can either keep the Spock character or you can keep the female first officer character. And so he had to wait because they said, well, that's too much for us to do. We can't have both. So he kept Spock, but then cast her as Christine Chapel, and she is throughout. And she's great with what she does. She's
definitely. I mean, her part was cut dramatically, wasn't it? Because I think she would have been a more pivotal character if she had stayed as number one.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Yeah. I mean, you get an idea of that with the Strange New World series, the potential for that character, really.
But it's quite interesting because is it Catherine Moldew or whatever her name is? She played the Doctor in season 2 of Star Trek: The Next Generation. She was actually in an episode.
Yeah. She was. Kate Mulder. No, what's her name? Yeah.
Is it Mulder? Something like that. Yeah. You know the lady I mean, though, don't you?
I do know who you mean.
Yeah. She was actually in an episode of one of the original series as well.
She is.
So that's quite interesting. Yeah.
Can't remember which one, but yes, she is. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So Keith has put Star Trek Continues was the YouTube series that had lookalikes as the original cast. Very good series and well worth watching. Well, there you are. So that was Star Trek Continues. Yeah. She was also the computer voice for all Trek shows until her death. Yeah. Again, I mean, the thing is, once you were part of that Star Trek world, you were part of it for a long time, weren't you? Because the world was your oyster. You know, you could come back and do different characters in the future and stuff like that. You could, like she did, voice computers and stuff like that. So, it was very rewarding.
I think a lot of people who get into Star Trek, they stick with it, don't they? And whether that's the convention circuit, which a lot of the cast members from some of the later series, they're on that convention circuit all the time, but they also appear, don't they? They do guest appearances as different characters and such like if they get a chance.
Just hypothetical, do you think the dynamic between Kirk, Bones, and say if she was number one, how much would that have changed?
Wow, yeah, it would have been. Yeah, it would have been different, wouldn't it? It would have been very different. Because number one was written as the more cold, logical character for the Cage, and Spock may have stayed more emotional. So we would have had a completely different sort of evolution for the Spock character then potentially. It's hard to speculate because the whole of Star Trek is really based on Kirk, Spock, and Bones' relationship at that center point, and that sort of defines it. It's hard to imagine what it would have been like. Very different, I'm sure. Yeah,
definitely. Palps has put, what about the animated series? Do you know what? I've seen one or two of those episodes. I would love to go back and watch them again because apparently they're quite good.
They're pretty decent stories, some of them. Yeah, they're quite good. Not something that I watch very much, but there's some pretty good stories. And everyone came back and voiced the characters apart from Walter Koenig. For some reason, he wasn't invited back to voice Chekhov.
Wow.
And, so they were all doing it. I mean, so
that's weird because he was invited back to do the movies, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's really odd. Yeah, it's really odd.
Wow.
I think a lot of that's down to Nimoy. I think Nimoy really sort of bigged up the roles for them and fought for them to be involved.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Talking of which, here he is, Pavel Chekhov.
Yeah.
Again, I thought he was a great character, but then he wasn't in season 1, was he?
No, he was brought in to sort of to bring a Russian in was the idea, wasn't it? But it also, they cast him because he looked a bit like Davy Jones on the Monkees, and they were really popular at the time, and so it was kind of killing two birds with one stone there. But they wanted, I mean, in quite a blunt way, it's showing, isn't it, that we're not going to be at war with the Soviet Union in 200 years' time. It shows that peace was possible. There's a lot of humor around that. He claims that everything was invented in Russia at different times, doesn't he? He kind of bigs up Russia a lot, and all in a comedic way.
Because Kieran Balls put Chekhov was brought into the show to attract the teenage girls and had to wear a wig fashioned after Davy Jones. Look at this, wowzers! Again, this is fascinating stuff because as much as I like Star Trek, I don't really know too much about it. I know bits and bobs. Des said I was good knowledge earlier, but I looked on Wikipedia for that, or so that's the marvel of the internet there. But yeah, again, I thought he was a great character, and it does, with him not being in episode 1, season 1, it does throw a loophole, doesn't it, for Star Trek 2: The Wrath of Khan?
It certainly does, yeah.
Yeah, which is a bit of an oversight there. And then to finish off the original cast, we have Grace Lee Whitney as Yeoman Janice Rand. And again, a kind of like a bit part character. She was here, there, and everywhere, every now and again, wasn't she? But, she was also in a few of the movies as well.
She does pop up in the movies also, yes. Again, she have huge amounts to do. But, she's only in a few episodes, and I think she's only in the first season as well. Before she.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think she only appears in the first season, and she gets. I mean, she's perhaps the less. No, she's kind of treated like Kirk's secretary, isn't she? She's the yeoman, but she's she kind of flounces around Kirk and such like, and she's the victim of when Kirk split into the evil, and the good Kirk and the evil Kirk sort of tries to have his wicked way with her and such like. So she's kind of perhaps in a more traditional sort of part, really. But she disappears. I don't think it's ever explained where she goes.
I'm not too sure whether she was in the motion picture, but I know she was in Star Trek 3, and I think she was in Star Trek. What else was she in? She was in Star Trek 6: Undiscovered Country, because she was on the Excelsior, wasn't she?
That's right. Yeah, she is in the motion picture. She's the transporter chief.
Blimey! How? Oh, good God! Yeah. Well,
when they have the transporter accident, and those Stonak and the other guy get scrambled, and
that's it. Yeah. It wasn't your fault. There's nothing you could have done. Yeah.
That's her. And Star Trek 3, she has just like a tiny non-speaking role as the Enterprise
comes into space dock.
Space dock. And Star Trek 4, she's at Starfleet headquarters. She's working in Starfleet headquarters.
Okay.
When the whale probe is, crazy. Yeah. So she's there then. And you're right. Yes, she's communications.
How cool is it that they bring her back in? I mean, she's not got the biggest roles in the world, but she's there because she's part of that. Do you know what I mean? She's served on the Enterprise. She's been in Starfleet, and she's progressed through the ranks and stuff like that, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely brilliant that they did that. And I know in Star Trek 3, Nimoy gave her that part. He particularly wanted to bring her in for that part. And it's as fans of the show, that's one of those moments, isn't it, that you kind of you leap when you get to see that. I remember the first time I realized, this is jumping ahead to Star Trek 2, but the communications officer of the Reliant is Commander Kyle. Now, Mr. Kyle appears throughout the original series, and they brought back John Winston, the same actor.
God, because I remember,
Reliant, and wow. I mean, sometimes non-speaking in the original series episodes, but other times he has a few lines. But he must be in. I'd like to think a dozen or more episodes potentially. So I would, first time I realised that as a kid. That was
I didn't know that. But now you say it, I remember the character Mr. Kyle because I remember Kirk saying it, and wow, that is so cool.
Incredibly geeky, but it thrilled me when I first realised.
That is awesome. Let's just quickly catch up with the chat. So Jason's put, a lot of the tech we see in the shows are now well, I mean, that's it. You mean, you look at the flip phones you get and stuff like that. Who would have thought that would have been? Yeah, is that a look at you with your gadgets? Oh dear, that was awesome. What's this? She also appeared in an episode of Voyager with Captain.
She did, flashback.
Did she?
Yeah, they do it.
God, I didn't watch all of Voyager. I kind of got a bit bored with that.
That one's worth seeking out, because that one's set
really
during the events of Star Trek 6. It kind of expands on the role of Sulu and the Excelsior during the events of Star Trek 6. It's well worth finding that one. It's really
okay.
Good.
I'll have to have a look at that. Well, according to JT, Chekhov isn't seen in season 1 because he was looking after the nuclear vessels. There you are. Bit of Jonathan Wass going on there. Who's this? STM Vija was the first. This is true. Yeah. So we're going to get onto the movies in a second. So there were 79 episodes of Star Trek, the original series. Now, do you remember back in the 90s a TV series called You Bet?
Yeah, vaguely.
You had guests come on, didn't you, or celebrity guests come on, and the member of public, oh, I can do this and I can do that and I can do this. Well, because of that, I wanted to do that. So I never did it, but I wanted to, and I memorized the whole 79 episodes of Star Trek.
Absolutely
From
fantastic.
the first one through to 79. That was knowledge. And yeah, I'd reel them off. I'd reel them off. I could name each and every episode. I can't do it now.
Was that in order?
That was in order.
Wow, that's even more impressive.
That was in order. I was so proud of myself. It didn't take me anywhere. It didn't get me anywhere. But there you go. What's this? We've got Darth Wizzy Wizard, Star Trek, wonderful. Scott, hello, Wizzy. Nice of you to join us, mate. Thank you very much. Yeah, so after 79 episodes, Star Trek was cancelled. I mean, it did well through syndication because obviously there was like a big hurrah with the fans and stuff like that. So they decided that they were going to do Star Trek Phase 2. Now, you touched on that a little bit earlier. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, well, I think they realised through syndication that there was money to be made from Star Trek, and conventions started to happen, and the cast were going along, and there were thousands of people turning up to these conventions. You know, they realised they were onto something. And I was reading something this week, and you know, they were coming up with ideas for films potentially. But then it evolved into Star Trek Phase 2, which was going to be a whole new series, and they'd got everybody back, apart from Nimoy, who wasn't keen to come back at that point.
Yeah.
So they cast a new character or a new actor for a Vulcan science officer.
Yeah,
going to be called Zon. But then, not long before that show they were going to start filming it, they decided to make a film instead, and they went down that route. I mean, they got very close. I mean,
Star Trek, the motion picture.
Yeah,
here we are.
Some of the sets and other work that was done for Phase 2 ended up in the motion picture.
Yeah. Would you get to the cast in a second? So, a family once long ago sent their child to kindergarten only knowing Klingon as a first. What? I mean, I can believe that because Klingon is a language, isn't it? It's a bit like Elfish from Lord of the Rings. It's an actual. They turned it into an actual language. That's insane.
Yeah, it's a properly fully fledged language. The guy Mark Okrand, who kind of created it, and he understands linguistics, so he can.
Yeah.
You know, and I think if you know how, you can write a language, and you can understand how to create words that aren't already in that language, can't you? I mean, it's beyond.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
But
apparently, Tom Hanks is a huge fan of the original Star Trek series. Again, didn't know that. And Keith remembers You Bet with that odious knob Matthew Kelly. Yeah. So here we have the cast of the motion picture. So we've got all the favourites there and all the characters back from the original series. Plus, you've got Lieutenant Ilea here and Captain Willard Decker. No, is it Willard Decker?
Yeah,
it is Willard Decker, isn't he? And his dad was in one of the original episodes as well, wasn't he?
The Doomsday Machine, yeah, Commodore.
That's it. Yeah.
Sacrifices himself, flies into the Doomsday Machine.
Yeah.
And explodes.
Because he is the captain of the Enterprise, is old Willard Decker. And the Enterprise gets sent out on a mission to investigate this big, huge anomaly in space. It's easy for you to say. In space. So, and then obviously Kirk takes over. But again, you've got that great camaraderie between all the characters. And I think everybody plays their part well. And I thought the film worked. I thought it was a great film.
Yeah, I mean, you can see them there in their pastel uniforms. And that for me was a real dull point. You know, I think I have reassessed the film. I used to call it the motionless picture at one point,
right,
and found it very slow. But that was probably in my teens, and I've since come around to liking it a lot more because what they have got right, they've still got their characters, and you know, the moment that Kirk brings McCoy aboard, and he's got a great beard and a medallion. He's obviously been living a high life, retired from Starfleet, but Kirk brings him aboard. They have a brilliant sort of reconciliation, and then Spock arrives, and there's some absolutely wonderful moments between the three of them throughout that film. But again, some of the other characters, they just go straight back into those roles. They're absolutely fantastic.
And I didn't mind the movie. I didn't mind the movie. So Star Trek: The Motion Picture was released on December the 7th, 1979, distributed by Paramount Pictures with a budget of 44 million and a box office takings of 139 million. That is by far the biggest box office takings for the Star Trek movies from 1 to 6. I'll say that. But I mean, I didn't mind it. I mean, this come out obviously after Star Wars. Star Wars was 1977. Why do you think they decided to go down the route of doing the movie instead of going through that Star Trek Phase 2? Because wasn't that supposed to be set on like something like Epsilon 9? Which was that big space station that got taken out by that giant cloud, Voyager.
Well, I think the Enterprise was going to be back for Phase 2.
Yeah.
It was still going to be following the, I think it was going to be Kirk's second 5-year mission or something. I'm not sure about Epsilon 9. It is the station that's followed up by Voyager. I reckon they went for a film because of the huge success of Star Wars. They probably thought that there was possibly more money to be made. On the back of that, they got Industrial Light and Magic involved and such like, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they wanted to emulate that success, I think. I'm not 100% sure of the reasoning behind it, but it was science fiction had been big, hadn't it? What else had we had around that time as well? We've got Close Encounters, I suppose, as well. Perhaps other big science fiction as well, perhaps. So yeah, I think that was probably the reasoning for it. Plus, they got Leonard Nimoy back.
Which was a big
come back and do a
film.
Yeah.
So just catch up on the chat. So Elvish from the Lord of the Rings is Gaelic. Oh, okay. What's this, Travel? I'm still trying to do a custom 3 figures for motion pictures as 3 was not made from the main bridge crew. Oh, okay. TJC was that ball chip was a stunner. All right, TJC. Just imagine me wearing what she's wearing.
Whoa.
I think that's just ruined it for him and everybody else.
Wow.
Crazy Commodore Decker. Yeah, he was crazy. All right.
That should be your
greetings, Delvian, or should I say Andy? Hello, how are you? Nice you to join us. That is essentially the reasoning, Scott. Oh, okay. I don't know what that was.
Sure, what I was
apparently confirmed, but sorry, I'm a bit behind in the chat there. The motion picture has the greatest line. Spock says they treat V'Ger like a child. McCoy says the child is about to wipe out everything on Earth. Now, what you suggest? Again, that's the thing, though. His character, it just comes out with some. He's got some of the best lines. He has some of the best lines in the original series. He's definitely got some of the best lines in the movies as well.
Yeah.
William Shatner stated that in an interview as well. Okay, I lost on what we talked about now, so I do apologise. Why, Stu? Did you say that? Just put me. Sorry, mate. Sorry, but yeah, some people have said that the motion picture was very much like a long episode of the original series. How do you feel about that?
I would agree. It is very much. I mean, there's an episode called Changeling in the original series where they encounter an old Earth space probe, which has somehow been altered and has got immense power. And it's a very similar kind of story, I suppose. Really, it's the kind of story that Roddenberry used to tell. Technology that had gone wrong, or encountering godlike beings. It's a very, very Star Trek story, and that's why it still works. Really,
I mean, again, the special effects were decent as well, weren't they?
The special effects are phenomenal. I know a lot of people. I mean, I've joked about saying that calling it the motionless picture, but I mean, I can sit now and watch that 5-minute tour around the Enterprise with Jerry Goldsmith's incredible score.
Yeah,
I'm just happy to watch it. And there's all those. I mean, there's quite a lot of long shots of the Enterprise flying into V'Ger, which is trying to give you the idea of the huge scale.
Just how big it is. Yeah.
Describe it as being. Is it like 80 AUs in diameter? That's like the distance from the Earth to the Sun is an AU. So it's like 80 times that distance in size. The cloud. That's just utterly immense. So they're trying to give us that perspective, I suppose. And those shots are absolutely beautiful. Really.
Yeah.
amazing. But it slows the story down, and I think that the general greyness of the bridge set and of the ship set and those pastel uniforms. I mean, it just kind of adds to a bit of a sense of everything being a bit washed out. But there's real nuggets in there.
Definitely.
It's a film I've come to love a lot more. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a decent film.
And
so Wizzy's just put in regards to making Star Trek the motion picture because of Star Wars success. Apologies for not making it. That's okay, mate. Yes, that's not your fault, pal. Not your fault. And Coxie, hello, sir. How are you? Nice you to join us. No hellos from me, but Coxie's in the chat, but he says hello to everybody. Hi, Des. You cheating on Star Wars tonight? Yes, he is, because it's Star Trek. That's what it is. But yeah. So I mean, look, listen. I found the movie. I don't mind it. I can sit and watch it. I'm quite happy to sit and watch it. It's not a bad movie. But my favorite of the lot is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Now, this was released on June the 4th, 1982. Again, distributed by Paramount Pictures. This time, it had a budget of 12 million. And a total box office taken of 97 million. I find that remarkable that the budget was smaller and the box office takings was smaller. This was an absolutely superb film. I mean, what do you think of that?
I think it's also probably my favourite of the Star Trek films as well. It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, they nail the characters. The story is exciting. It's heartfelt. It's dealing with aging, isn't it? Is one of the sort of themes that's going on there. Suddenly Captain Kirk or Admiral Kirk is he's fallible because he's aging and he's having a midlife crisis, really, isn't he? And his friends are rallying around. I mean, the brilliant scenes. Dr. McCoy, damn it, Jim, what's the matter? Everyone else has birthdays. Why are we treating yours like a funeral? He said.
Yeah.
And, it's just tremendously written. And I got a book about the making of it for Christmas. There's loads of new stuff in there, new photos and information. And I didn't realize that when they brought Nicholas Meyer on, who directed it, and there were various versions of the script, but he didn't like it. He went away and rewrote the script in 12 days.
Wow.
So you won't see he's not credited in the film as for the screenplay, and he got no pay for doing the screenplay. But he went away, wrote it, and everybody loved it, which is absolutely remarkable. And I just love that they bring in the nautical themes. They really go back to the idea of Horatio Horn in space, and I for one absolutely love the new uniforms and the styling, the color that's in there, the detail.
Yeah, the reds, because the reds were quite prominent in the original series, weren't they? And then they brought that back. I mean, I love it. For me, these are my favorite uniforms out of the whole Star Trek.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But the level of detail that's gone into them, the rank insignia, the different colors for the different divisions that they're in. Yeah. Their service pips on the sleeve and all that sort of thing. It's just absolutely brilliant.
So Des has just put, I'm not, where's it gone? I'm not mentioning Fanboys Delvian. Kirstie Alley debut. Yes, it is. We'll get to that in a second. Excellent Star Trek movie, even if it's the second best. No. Oh, I can't have that, Martin. We're going to have to agree to disagree.
I would not put it behind Star Trek 6. I would not.
No.
Sorry.
Shush, Martin, the adults are talking Star Trek. Where? Very good. What's number one, Martin? Undiscovered Country. Not for me, but never mind. But yeah, I mean, it was a total shock towards the end of the movie. I mean, if you've not seen it, spoiler alert. It's over 40 years old now. But Spock sacrifices himself. I mean, Christ. I mean, that was a real biggie for me. I was like, wow. Yeah. What the hell? A major character in the Star Trek franchise, and he's sacrificed himself to save everybody. But then again, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So we put it. Or the one. Yeah. Emotional stuff, that, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it still is. Every time I watch it, it's still it's still quite raw, I suppose. It's just a brilliantly acted film, and Leonard Nimoy is so understated in it, and the way they handle it, the way the way Kirk looks across, and Bones comes through on the intercom and he says, "Jim, you better get down here. You better hurry." And he looks, and the reaction of shock and the running down the corridors and zipping down the ladders and stuff to get to him. Your heart is pounding for that moment, to get to that moment, and then they have that fantastic scene. It's just, it's a culmination at that point of sort of 3 seasons and an animated series and another film's, relationship, friendship between these characters. He's now sacrificing himself to save everyone else. It's absolutely tremendous.
And as much as an emotional scene it was, that wasn't the most emotional scene for me, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's just move the slide on. So here we have Kirstie Alley. She played Savick. Was it Lieutenant Savick?
Lieutenant Savick, yeah.
Savick, yeah. So I mean, another Vulcan brought into the mix. I thought she did a great job. I didn't mind her performance at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Decent character.
Yeah, we haven't seen that many Vulcan characters.
No.
Female Vulcan characters either. There is the odd episode. There's a mock time where and we see Spock's father. We don't see.
Well, he was prominent through, wasn't he? What was the guy's name?
Mark
Who
Leonard.
played him? Mark Leonard. Yeah, he was prominent through the original series and through a lot of the movies as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's in a few of the movies.
Yeah.
He's only in the one episode of the original series as Spock's father. He does appear as a Romulan in another.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But no, I think she does a great job, really. I mean, in the script she was, or in the original story idea, she was half Romulan, half Vulcan, which was going to sort of add a bit of sort of spice to the character, I suppose.
Yeah.
There is an outtake of Jim and Spock discussing that at some point, but I think they shelved that. So I don't think I think we just consider it to be Vulcan. I don't think we consider it to be half Romulan. I'm not sure.
Well,
great job.
I mean, the beginning of the film got me because it starts off where they're on the bridge of the Enterprise, and then all of a sudden it's blowing up and everybody's getting killed, and I think, what's going on here? And then you hear the sirens going off in the background, and the big screen opens up, and Kirk makes his dramatic entrance. He's all silhouetted out and stuff like that. Oh, it's a training. So yeah.
Brilliant at that. And I think because I think the story had broke that Spock might die. Some people, and Roddenberry had leaked it because I think Roddenberry, he was kind of sidelined at this point. After the motion picture, he kind of got sidelined, given a sort of like a consulting role, but that kind of meant put on gardening leave, more or less. He didn't have any power over it, but he did, and I think it was maybe this film that he leaked that part of the story. So in a way, this opening was like a bit of a wink or a bit of a side, to make people think, oh, maybe that's it. He dies here, but not really.
Well, another leak. We've got another leak. JT, it's all right. He comes back. Well, I didn't know that, JT, but thank you very much. Cheers. No, of course I knew that. It's all good. What's this? Martin is an actor, not a film critic. Laugh out. The best part of what Into the Darkness. I'm not too keen on these new movies. Good God. And at the time, Nimoy had insisted that he would not return to play Spock, thus the death scene. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I ended up watching Star Trek 2 by accident, wanting to see Firefox, but my mum just paid to see the next film. Oh, dear. But, hang on. We've got Dave C. Straight from the pit. Hello, Dave. Hoping you and the family are well. Nice of you to join us. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Awesome to see you, pal. So moving on with the slides, we have the introduction of Dr. Carol Marcus and Dr. David Marcus, who we find out is Kirk's son.
Yeah.
The sly dog.
Yeah. When did that happen?
Well, there you go, because we didn't know anything about a Carol Marcus, did we?
No,
through the series, or
yeah, she's not a character who ever appeared.
No.
A lot of exes do appear at different times. So yeah, she's I mean, I think he's meant to be have reached 50. So I guess trying and work out how old David is, and so when that happened. I mean, it must have happened sometime considerably before the original series. I'm guessing.
Yeah. Sorry, I just was this Stu send you a photo on Instagram showing how someone changed the uniform from Just Red. Okay, I'll have a look at that in a minute, pal. A little bit busy at the moment. A great James Horner soundtrack. Yeah. I mean, I've got to say, again, as much as I like the music from Star Wars, Star Trek has some damn decent themes in it, didn't it? All the way through from the motion picture through to the Undiscovered Country.
Absolutely. I mean, they all do a fantastic job. And Jerry Goldsmith's score in the motion picture is utterly remarkable. It's fantastic, and so much so that you will that theme tune is sort of synonymous with all Star Trek now. I mean, it was used for the next generation, and it crops up again in Star Trek 5. Absolutely brilliant. But James Horner does the most wonderful job with Star Trek 2 and 3. His soundtracks are just beautiful. Really, they convey so much, and the action as well. Just wonderful work. But I enjoy the music for Star Trek 4 very much. I like the music for Star Trek 6 as well. So it's they're all really, really good.
Cool. Right. Now, Ricardo Montalban or Montalban, that's it. And then you got Judson Scott, his little sidekick down there. I thought this performance was absolutely outstanding. What a great actor this guy is. What a great character Khan is. It was just, I think it's his performance and The Reliant that make this my favorite Star Trek movie, because I just thought that the need and the thirst for revenge over Kirk was just, it was incredible. It really was. What a great character. What did you make of this guy?
Yeah, he's fantastic, isn't he? He's kind of like he's a Captain Ahab or something. He's just completely lost the plot, really.
Yeah.
And he's out for revenge. He gives such a performance. It's brilliant. Yeah, really good. And it's great to bring a character back from the original series as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Into that problem with Chekhov earlier on.
Yes.
And Khan appears in the first season, but then apparently recognizes Chekhov. But Chekhov certainly, we didn't see Chekhov on screen during the first season.
No. Have there been any sort of like workarounds as to why that was, or he might have just noticed him or recognized him from the ship? He was somewhere else he was part of the ship, but he was somewhere else in the crew.
I think that's probably the kindest thing to
suggest,
that Chekhov was somewhere lower decks and encountered Khan that way. But no, I don't think anything's ever been brought out sort of to officially say so. I think Walter Koenig realized during filming, and just he didn't say anything because he was worried they might reduce his role or change the scene or something.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah, because I mean, he got a bit of screen time, didn't he? Because he was on the Reliant, wasn't he, with Captain Terrell?
He got a really meaty role, didn't he? To be fair,
yeah.
And he gets to take revenge well, which is great.
Yeah, and the slugs that go into the ear, that weren't good. That weren't good.
I can remember that as a kid being quite squeamish about that and finding it like, oh god, that's horrible. And it's a good idea. Something you don't often get something as gruesome as that really in Star Trek. No. I mean that was quite terrifying, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Right, moving on then. We've got Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. This was released on June the 1st, 1984. Again, released by Paramount Pictures with a budget of 16 million and a box office taken of 87 million. So again, a relatively small budget. What did you think of this movie?
I love it. I absolutely love Star Trek 3.
There
used to be people used to say all the even Star Trek films are the best and the odd ones not aren't good, but I think this film's absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely packed with adventure, brilliant character moments. It introduces some really iconic sort of, I suppose, visuals. I suppose we see Space Dock for the first time, which is an absolutely incredible novel. We see the USS Excelsior for the first time, and that Excelsior class ship, which it's still flying. I think it's still flying in Voyager and later on as well. So the Klingons as well. I mean, that's the first time we've properly seen the Klingons fleshed out. As we know them now. We'd seen them with the with the armor and the heads during that opening to the motion picture, but they're not really they're not fleshed out and not got personality. Really, and it was this film that led to the creation of the Klingon language, the idea of some of the ideas of the Klingon culture, you know, that kind of code of honor that they've got. All of that comes from this film. Christopher Lloyd's absolutely phenomenal performance.
We'll get to him in a second, but absolutely. I thought he was superb.
And I just think, again, the cast performed so wonderfully in a really great kind of there's such serious reason behind what they're doing, but the stealing of the Enterprise and so on is handled. It's so much fun as well. It's so much fun.
Yeah. How can you have a red alert or yellow alert in space dock? Someone stealing the Enterprise sort of thing. But and so again, we have the Spock comes back into it. He's predominantly a kid, and he sort of rapidly accelerates his growth pattern during the course of the film. You've got Robin Curtis, I want to say, who played Lieutenant Savick. Why was Kirstie Alley not asked back into the film? Was she busy doing something else? Or
I'm not sure. Had she gone on was she doing Cheers by this time?
Yes, I think she was.
I mean, it could be a combination. She probably was doing Cheers, and she probably asked for more money. She was, more well known. But beyond that, I don't know. I think Robin Curtis, does a decent enough job.
Also, David Merrick come back. David Merritt's come back as David, Kirk's son, who was killed off. Yeah, who was killed off.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. Merritt Buttrick. That's it. Yeah. So he was killed off, wasn't he? So, but for me, when I was saying about the most emotional scene that I've seen in Star Trek, any of the Star Treks, was when they blew the Enterprise up. And then they're standing on top of the cliff on the Genesis planet, and they're watching it come down. You've got that music going off in the background, and then Kirk's going, "My God, Bones, what have I done?" And then I was like, "Oh, what have you done?" And then Bones comes out with what you always do: you turn death into a fighting chance to live.
That's
and
exactly.
Just to see that was just what this is an iconic ship. I know you've got iconic characters and stuff like that, but I was more upset about them blowing up the Enterprise, and I did get emotional. I could feel myself welling up.
Yeah,
and I didn't feel myself welling up when Spock, died at the end of Star Trek 2. But this really pulled on the heartstrings.
Yeah, absolutely. It's. I mean, we've been on every journey with that ship since 1996, haven't we? So of course, it's. It means a huge amount to us. I mean, talking of emotional moments, I mean, David's death in itself isn't, but with the performance when he stumbles back and misses the chair, and you Klingon bastards, you've killed my son. And
do you think that was intentional?
I don't know.
Or unintentional?
I don't know. No idea. But it's done brilliantly. It's hard. It's a hard thing to. It's kind of hard to stumble. Or to miss hard to miss a seat on purpose. You're almost too conscious you can do it, but I don't know. They're actors. But I think he does a brilliant job at conveying that, and then gets his composure back, and and makes that decision. He's just lost his son. Now he's got to destroy his ship.
I know. Not a good day at the office, is it? To be honest with you.
Not really.
There you go. What's this? The new movies are soulless by and large, but I've not watched them all except for the first one they did a decade ago. Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to talk about the new movies, but here we are. Just one of many children. Kirk was a ladies' man. Well, possibly.
Really?
I've never trusted Klingons, and I never will. I can never forgive them for the death of my boy. Yeah, that was in Star Trek 6, wasn't it? Oh, he's quoting Star Trek 6 again. Pack it in, Martin. We'll get there in a minute. Agreed, Stu. Monty was the man. He was just insanely good. So let's crack on then, because again, you've got Merritt Buttrick and Robin Curtis as Savick and David Marcus, and then you've got Christopher Lloyd as, is it Krug? Oh, Krug. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, again, you're so used to seeing him as. Hang on, when was this released? 1980. When was this? What did I say? It was 1984.
Yeah.
So Back to the Future. Was Back to the Future out then? The first one that hadn't been made yet, had it?
No, I don't think so.
No. So this is the first time then that you would have got to see Christopher Lloyd, because I only knew him as Doc.
He was famous for Taxi comedy.
Okay, I've not seen
comedy.
Taxi.
I'd not know, but it was a popular American sitcom, wasn't it? I don't know. I think it was on over here, but we were probably too young for it.
Yeah. But again, what a great performance. And there was such a transformation between the Klingons in the original series and the Klingons that we know now. And they did kind of go into that a little bit in one of the Deep Space Nine episodes, where they go back in time and meet up with the original crew of the Enterprise, which I thought was very well done.
Trials and tribulations. They go back.
That's it. Yeah. And then obviously Worf sitting there, and they look at the Klingons and they go, "What?" When they just look at him, what's going on here?
We do not talk about it, I think he said.
Yeah.
Klingon, we do not talk about it.
But it is so weird, isn't it? I mean, what was the idea behind that then? Just to make them look a bit more alien, I guess.
I guess so. I mean, I think what they said was that they would have always wanted to do it, and it just wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that they could do, and you can see it. It's there. They've got the moustaches and beards stuck on there. You know, they're generally given a kind of a darker makeup, aren't they? And you know, you can see that that they are the cheap 1960s version. So yeah, I guess it's what they'd always have liked to have done. You know, if George Lucas had done it, he'd have gone back and like CGI'd their heads on or something, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Especially.
So that is Star Trek 3, and I've got to say, I would have been quite happy for them to have just finished it there and not do any more. But they did, and they did Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, which was released on November the 26th, again by Paramount Pictures, this time with a budget of between 21 and 25 million and a box office of 133 million, should I say. Yeah. So again, that's quite a big old... what? So how has this got a bigger box office taking than Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, or Star Trek 3?
I think because everyone knows it. It's the one with the whales. I think it was probably or potentially more accessible to people. You know, they go back to contemporary times. You know, don't they? They travel back.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
I think it is. Is it? I think until the Abrams films, which we're not talking about, I think it was the highest-grossing Star Trek film, wasn't it? I think
that is weird, because for me, I didn't mind them going back in time. I just, I don't know. I wasn't a great fan, you know. I wasn't.
Okay. I love it as well. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying there's anything. Well, I'm just saying for me, I would have been quite happy if they'd have just done away with 4, 5, and 6, if I'm honest. But they didn't. But again, you've got the characters there. This is at the end of the movie where they're thinking they're going to be getting the Excelsior as a new ship.
That's right. Yeah.
And then they go over the top of the saucer, and then you've got the Enterprise A. That's there, because let's not forget. So you've got the original Enterprise. Then in the movie, it's the Enterprise NCC 1701, but it's a refit. Mm-hmm. So this is the Enterprise NCC 1701-A. Yeah. And this is the journey through the alphabet with the Enterprise, isn't it? So, I mean, was you happy to see that same kind of ship given back to them, or would you have liked to have seen them take like a different ship, like
it still gets the hairs up on the back of my neck.
Yeah,
every time I see that moment,
wouldn't you have liked to see them rename the Excelsior or something like that and call it the Enterprise? No.
Why would you want that bucket of bolts? Scotty says.
Well, this is true.
No. I mean, for me, it's just it is one of those most emotional moments in Star Trek for me when they get the Enterprise A. It's
so apparently Kieran has said they couldn't have Mexican Klingons in the movie. Stupid. God's sake, Kieran. Jesus crikey. But yeah. But again, you're going back to the same uniforms as you saw in episode 2, Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, which I enjoyed. Yeah. The only real sort of like new character we afforded to is this young lady, and Gillian is her name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was a she used to work at like a sea life center or something like that with the whales,
Yeah.
George and Gracie,
Yeah.
and then she goes back in. Well, she goes into the future with Kirk and stuff like that, doesn't she? And you don't see her again after that because she's off gallivanting. I mean, she looks fairly happy there, doesn't she? She looks quite
Yeah,
happy
you
with herself.
don't
Yeah.
see her again. Presumably, she's gonna. I mean, when she says science vessel, presumably, I always imagine her that she's somehow helping with the whales. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's gone off into space, but I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, and we never revisit the character. And I always think, later on where Kirk refers. I mean, in Generations, he refers to somebody he wishes he'd settled down with, and it's kind of a shame that they didn't just use her name. That he didn't just use the name Gillian instead of whoever it is that he refers to, just to suggest that they had continued a relationship.
Sorry, Scott, but according to Kevin, Voyage Home was a tragedy of a film. Yeah, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't great, but I'm not calling it a tragedy. But anyway. Oh, hang on a minute. Apparently, it was the Yorktown which had been changed. Okay. See, all these people that know about Star Trek, and this is the funny thing because we're talking about it. No one talks about Star Trek, do they, within the collecting community that much?
I've heard it was Yorktown, but I don't think I've ever officially.
I don't mind Star Trek 4, although it could have been that I sat and watched it with my family when it was premiered on TV, and the memory attached to it. Oh, okay. No, there's nothing wrong with that. That's all good.
I think that's why it did so well. It was a good family film.
Yeah. The one thing I really enjoyed with the Star Trek movies is that it was always the original. Yeah. So, I've got to do it. I don't want to do it. I didn't want to talk about it when we come up with this conversation, but we have to. Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, was released by Paramount Pictures on June the 9th, 1989, with a budget of 33 million and a lowly box office take-ins of 63 million. Now, oh my God, Scott.
This is the car.
Scott, why?
Yeah.
Let me spin my positive on it, and it's the only positive. It was when they Bones, Spock, and Kirk were in the viewing area, in the viewing lounge or whatever it was, and he was going, I don't want to take away my fear, because the fear is part of me, makes me. Do you know what I mean? That was probably the best part of the film for me. The rest of it, what do you think?
It's a car crash, really, and it was a really troubled film, wasn't it? I mean, it's got absolutely shocking special effects. I mean, that's one of the, they employed this special effects company instead of ILM, and they just were hopeless, and so the story doesn't flow in places because they couldn't have all the special effects they wanted. The story's a bit. It's quite a classic Star Trek story, a godlike being brainwashing the crew, brainwashing people. It's really quite a simple. You could have done that in 50 minutes in 1967, and it would have been okay. But it's just by and large, it's utterly hopeless and inconsistent. But what I do like, I enjoy the stuff with Jim and Spock and Bones when they're on their camping trip. And get over their characters, but even some of the humor is a bit forced. Like Jim, but they go aboard the Enterprise, and they get called aboard, and he kind of shakes the chair, and I miss my old chair, and it's kind of played for laughs, and a few of the lines are, just played for quite crude laughs, considering that the sort of the seriousness of the situation and of some of the previous films, some of the performances. I don't think they're not at their best. Really, with it, but it does have. And I agree with what you said as well. There, seeing those two flashbacks about McCoy's father and child, those are really interesting explorations of the characters' past that we don't get a lot of that, and it's kind of a shame they didn't find a bit more time to do that for the others and see a bit more about them, because it would have been nice to have learned a bit more about whatever their pain was. That, but what are the Klingons? They just throw the Klingons in for the sake of a villain. Basically this renegade Klingon captain's just decided, it's like, oh God, we've just had it. The previous couple of films dealt with a renegade Klingon captain. We don't just want another one. I just think it's a bit unoriginal. Apparently it was apparently they enjoyed it. Shatner did a great job as director. He was an actor. he was an actor's director. I mean, I don't mean he directed film, but I mean the actor enjoyed working with.
Yeah, I mean, I like I say, I like some of the points that they were trying to cover, but as a film goes, I mean, there's the one scene where they were in the shuttle and they were on their way up to the Enterprise, and you can just clearly see the moon's been painted on the windscreen, not the windscreen, on the front of the ship on the screen, and with the silhouette of it just looked absolutely awful.
There are some terrible effects, and I mean, the scene in the turbo lift when they're going up.
Oh I forgot about that. Cheers.
It's a really naff scene, and they didn't even manage to number it properly. So they go past, I don't know, they go past 53 and 65, but then they go past 53 again, and it's.
Did they? Oh, don't say that, because I'm gonna have to go back and watch it now just to see that bit. But yeah,
like that really, just sort of.
It is a shame. It is a shame, because up until that point, I mean, the visual effects in Star Trek 4 were better.
Oh God, yeah.
Than in Star Trek 5. I mean, and the bit where Scotty's like, "Oh yeah, I know this ship like the back of my hand," bang, and you walk straight into that pillar. I mean, I just, okay.
I remember laughing at the cinema the first time I saw it, but subsequently, I'm kind of like, it's just not quite.
Yeah.
It's like they've just pushed it beyond, for me, what's acceptable for the characters. It's just gone a little bit beyond. It still
wasn't great.
They've still got to feel. They've still got to feel like grounded in some sort of reality, even though it's set 300 years in the future on a spaceship. It just seems to go a little bit too far for me.
Yeah. So this is the protagonist of the film. This is Spock's half brother, Cybok. I didn't even realize he had a half brother. Interesting fact. I think they wanted Sean Connery to play this part.
Yeah.
And he turned it down. So they got someone who looked like Sean. I mean, crikey, they could have come to me.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, yes, yeah.
Spock, I'm your brother, Cybok. Yes, I'm back. But I mean, I really don't think that would have worked with Connery anyway. It didn't work with this guy because I didn't like the movie, full stop. But I don't even think Sean Connery could have saved this movie.
No, not unless he'd spoke up and said, "Well, what's this all about?" Because Lawrence Luckinbill just does the lines really, and there's no, we never really get to the bottom of what he's doing, how does he create those images that Spock and McCoy see? How's that happening? What's going on? I mean, none of it's just like one plot device to the next, and it's only the only reason that there's anything successful in it is that those actors still knew their characters, and say that moment, when they're in the that observation deck with the, it's got the old ship's wheel, and Kirk looks down where no man has gone before, and such like, it has some moments, it has some nice character moments.
Yeah, it had potential.
Yeah, of course.
It had potential. It's like JT just says here, Star Trek 5 was okay. It was just the special effects that let it down, and it was, and. I think the story was thereabouts.
It's a very classic Star Trek story, but it didn't. It's like you feel like it needed someone else to look over it and give the screenplay another go, and so that it makes a bit more sense. And the special effects are hopeless, and they put you in a bad mood seeing it look as bad as that. And there's meant to be a fight with a rock monster at the end as well, which never happened. It's just just the luminous head chasing Kirk around, because they couldn't afford to do. I mean, there's footage of it that was shot, and it's appalling. It's a guy in a rubber rock band suit, and it would have just looked appalling, I think. So thank goodness they cut it. But it's just a bit of a disaster.
Just want to welcome Jason English. Hello, sir. Nice of you to join us. Thank you very much. What does God need with the Starship? Good acting with DeForest Kelly. Again, there's some moments there, and it does. I mean, I guess the one thing that the film didn't lose was the dynamic between the three characters. Because I think if that would have been lost, I think the movie would have just been absolutely woeful. I mean, it's bad enough as it is, but I think that, had its moments. The character dynamics between the three of them I thought, were good as always. So yeah, I'm sorry. I'm really, really skipping through some of these chats now, guys. I do apologize. We've just got one more little bit to crack on with, and that will be the last movie, which is Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, Martin's favorite movie. This was released by Paramount Pictures on December the 6th, 1991, with a budget of 30 million and a box office takings of 96.8 million. Again, you alluded to it in the previous movie where you had a renegade Klingon captain. And guess what we had in this movie?
Renegade Klingon general this time.
But at least you had a reason for him to be a renegade, because he didn't want to sign the peace accord, did he? He didn't want the peace treaty to go through with the Klingons. So again, the story's there from the beginning.
It's got a great story. They've got Leonard Nimoy helping develop the story and having this idea about it, linking to the Cold War. The Berlin Wall had just gone down. And so they're looking at this like collapse of the Soviet Union. It's an analogy for that. And they get Nicholas Meyer back, who directed Star Trek 2 and wrote all the stuff on Earth for Star Trek 4. So they get him back as well as director. And so, and it was coming up to 25th anniversary of Star Trek. So they, Paramount wanted to do something big and give these guys the send off they deserved. And they did it. It's a cracking film. Everyone gets their moments. For me, it's not quite got the. I don't quite have the same. It's not quite got the heart that Star Trek 2 has got for me. And I know that's kind of a nebulous thing. I can't define. I can't. Give you a list of good and bad and what makes Star Trek 2. But it's something in the heart of it that for me, it's not quite. There.
I mean, there's again with this film, there's some good moments. I mean, I think Christopher Plummer was superb. I thought his performance was great. You had David Warner, who pops up in quite a few of the Star Trek movies. I mean, he was the English ambassador, wasn't he? The English ambassador, the human ambassador. Sorry, should I say? Oh God, in Star Trek 5. So he's been in and out of Star Trek and stuff like that. But yeah, these guys weren't in their pomp. They were, it was a great sign off for them and send off for them. But I think they should have done it after Star Trek 3. For me, I didn't like them running around with the age that they were. The not being sizes or ages or anything like that. But it just, you don't want to remember them like that. Do you know what I mean? They're getting old. They should have retired. They shouldn't have been running around in Starfleet. Should have said, right, you look bad. Go on, op it. Retire them, move them up to somewhere else and stuff like that. But
I know what you mean, and I think that might be what I'm getting at. Star Trek 2 deals really well with aging, whereas this film doesn't deal so well with it, I think. And there is something that's a little bit tired. And only a little bit. I mean, I don't want to offend Martin. Because I do love this film.
Don't worry about Martin. Don't worry about him.
I do absolutely love this film. It is an absolutely brilliant film. And when I went to I can still remember going to the cinema and that moment that the Praxis wave hits the Excelsior and fire. I remember. And it was a fantastic cinema experience. I absolutely loved it. I remember getting this back on cassette, listening to it over and over again, and it's a great movie, but there's something that's a little bit. It's hard to say. I don't want to say it's the performances, but there's something that just feels a little bit tight. Some of the humor for me as well is just not quite as on the mark. Some of it, a couple of times, the humor's just a little bit forced. Not as natural.
It did introduce us to another female Vulcan character. This is Kim Cattrall as Valeris. So again, I thought she played the part well. Very surprised that she was involved in the assassination attempt and wanting to stop the peace treaty, as I was with Admiral Cartwright. I could not believe.
I know.
You see him in different movies, and he's in it as well.
He's in on it too.
I know.
Well, I mean, they wanted to get Kirstie Alley back as Savick because Nicholas Meyer did her, and they wanted Savick to have gone renegade. But she wasn't. Again, she declined to take part. So,
but I thought that character had stayed on Vulcan.
Well, yeah, but she's a Starfleet officer.
She's still.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether she'd quit Starfleet or
This
whatnot.
is sometime later, isn't it? I mean, I'm guessing that after Star Trek 5,
Yeah.
they've had another few years. They've
Yeah.
had another few year, 5-year mission even. I don't know. They've had a bit of time out there, and this is them coming to the end of their careers.
This movie was a very much a whodunit movie, wasn't it? Like a
Yeah.
detective kind of thing, which again, I don't mind. I can see the reasons why these guys didn't want the peace treaty. It's totally understandable, and I like the concept of that.
Mhm.
But like you say, I think it was just a little bit tiring seeing the characters running around the way they were and stuff like that, and some of the humor.
Yeah, just a couple of times. I think they find gravity boots. Now it happens to be the guy with the absurd feet that locker they find the gravity boots in.
Yeah.
And the disintegration of the pot, and it's there's just a little bit forced a couple of times, whereas other times the humor between the characters is absolutely spot on. Again, because they know their characters and they play off each other really, really well. So at times it's phenomenal and as good as Star Trek can be with that crew. But it's for me, it's just not as good as that.
No.
As Star Trek 2.
I mean, Kieran Ball's just put Michael Dorn made a great cameo as Worf's grandfather. Yeah, because by that time Star Trek Next Generation series was out, wasn't it? So they were sort of like trying to integrate the people there and stuff like that. Last one. This is Christopher Plummer as General Chang.
Yeah, he's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, quoting more Shakespeare than Martin tonight, isn't he?
Yeah. But that's the thing, though, and I like the fact that Shakespeare gets brought up quite a bit, because I know Picard likes his Shakespeare in The Next Generation. So that theming is always there within Star Trek, isn't it? Which I quite like.
It's very literary. Very literary.
Yeah.
References to literary out, aren't there?
Yeah, I like that. But I thought he was a great character. He played the part well.
Yeah, he's really good.
I think
well.
that's it.
Yeah, and David Warner as well.
Yeah.
As, this kind of peacemaker. He's kind of like he's kind of a Gorbachev character, isn't he? Really, he sees that the only way for the Klingons to survive is to make peace. So it's an interesting story, and I suppose it's interesting when it is quite shocking that Admiral Cartwright is in on it. You're not so shocked by some of the Klingons, but quite a shock that Starfleet members as well, see it as better to go down fighting, or rather to have a war with the Klingons rather than than go for peace instead. It's quite interesting.
Yeah. Well, that has pretty much wrapped up the conversation, Scott. I've got to say, I've really, really enjoyed chatting Star Trek with you, because, like you say, we don't chat about Star Trek that much within the community, and I just wonder what is your take on that? Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of negativity around current Star Trek. The Discovery stuff. Although I mean, Strange New Worlds. Shabby's a real champion for Strange New Worlds. Talks about that, a fair bit, and I think a lot of people are quite keen on that. A lot of it's only accessible through Paramount Plus, and how many people have got Paramount Plus, I suppose, for some of the newer Trek, but just get the impression there's a lot of negativity. It's very diluted. Star Trek fans are quite used to that. We've been through what's going on with Star Wars now, with all the different series that we've got for Star Wars. Star Trek was doing this in the 90s with Next Generation, then Deep Space Nine, then Voyager, then Enterprise, and then there was a bit of a quiet patch, and then the Abrams films came out, which they've kind of diluted things as well, haven't they?
Yeah.
Then we've had Discovery and the spin-offs of Discovery that are happening, and that's a whole new thing. And I don't know the Discovery.
It gets confusing, doesn't it? Because you had Star Trek the original series, then you had Star Trek the Next Generation. That Next Generation then led into Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine led into Voyager. Mm-hmm. That would have been it. That would have been great. Mm-hmm. Why do they feel the need now to go back before and because what it's doing is just just confusing the timeline, in my opinion. And I get fed up with that, and I've just, I can't be bothered to watch it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they're so entangled in timelines and canon and alternate time. I mean, they talk about the Kelvin universe.
Yeah.
So that they say that the three Abrams films, they are part of Star Trek in a different dimension or something, don't they? I think that's the way we're meant to look. I don't quite know where Discovery sits, because I thought it was supposed to be part of the main Star Trek canon. I'm unsure now what people are saying about that. And then you get things like this Section 31 film, which is the most appalling thing I've ever seen the name Star Trek attached to, quite honestly.
I've not seen it, and because I've heard it's bad, I'm not even going to watch it. I'm not going to watch it.
There's almost nothing about it that's Star Trek. And Star Trek, it's a bit like Star Wars. You say something. When we say something doesn't feel Star Warsy, and we may disagree on what we think feels Star Wars.
But it's the same with Star Trek, isn't it? So
but I mean, Star Trek has kind of rules. You've got to do these certain things, and chucking in the original Alexander Courage fanfare towards the end of section one is not enough to make it a Star Trek.
No. The thing is, what gets me, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but you've got Star Wars, you've got Star Wars lore, you've got the universe that it's been created in, you've got Star Trek, you've got Star Trek lore and the universe that's being created in.
Mm-hmm.
How difficult is it just to keep within that universe and within that lore and not try and alter things too much? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't get it. But
it seems quite straightforward to us, but then TV and movie executives have a different idea and are being fed information, aren't they, about what the audience want, or what what agendas need to be ticked or pushed, and I think there's a lot of we know Star Trek and Star Wars, and we think we know what we want to see from it or expect to see from it, and then they go and throw something at
totally
us
different,
like Section 31, which I mean, I know Discovery. There's a lot of people who don't like Discovery, but Discovery, I think, tries to be Star Trek, whereas this Section 31 didn't seem to want to be Star Trek at all.
No, I've not seen it. I'm not gonna see it. So, but there you are. Let me just catch up with the chat. JT says, to be fair, you've not heard Shakespeare until you've experienced in the original Klingon language.
That's right.
Maybe you would like to recite it to us, JT. That would be awesome. But yes, I know that is a quote from the movie. Awesome Trek live stream, Sean Scott in the chat. Thank you very much. Creatures of habit. Yeah, absolutely. This has been great fun. You have to do a follow-up on the Next Generation series of movies. Good shout. Good shout. Obviously, a whole 2 hours on DS. I could do 2 hours on DS9. I could easily do that. Well, the reason why we don't talk about Star Trek is because we bang on about Star Wars all the bloody time, according to Kieran. So, yeah. Admiral Cartwright also played Darth Vader in the radio dramas. Did he really? What was his name? Brock Peters? Brock Peters. That's it. Brock Peters. Yeah. Yes, Martin, that'd be good. There you are. Blimey now. And Cisco's father. Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is what I mean. The amount of characters that return to play different characters within the universe is pretty cool. S9 V
Babylon 5.
Oh, Babylon 5. Oh,
gosh,
I was never into Babylon 5. No competition there. No, absolutely not. Enterprise TV show was when The Rock set in. Yeah. I can't disagree with that.
Yeah.
When are you going to talk about Star Trek in by the firm? Who said that? Thanks, Des. Not. Well, that's the outro. That's the outro. That's the outro. No, it's just not. It's not the outro. No chance. Picard season 3 was great. Yeah, I mean that was the season 8. Season 8 of the Next Generation, wasn't it? That was decent. Ben, hello, sir. How are you? Thank you very much for joining us, and very much appreciated. This Discovery was too preachy and spent half an hour. Well, that's what I've heard. It's forever in my head from the holiday kids disco that my daughters used to go to. We need a Star Trek follow-up live stream soon. Do we now? Do we? Is that so? Thank yourself, Lucky Delvian. They used to play that in the family room on holiday camp. I work for DJC. Oh, Wizzy, thank you so much, mate. You didn't have to do that. what's a better trilogy as a whole, Star Trek or Star Wars? Oh my God. Wow.
I don't feel I can. I feel they sit comfortably separate, and I don't need.
Yeah.
I don't need to say
Yeah.
one is better than the other. They're so completely different. They,
Yeah.
you know, they've got different agendas, and they're telling different kinds of stories. And I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'm also a huge Star Trek fan. I've got room for both of them.
Yeah.
I can't. They're not comparable. I can't compare them. You know, really.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. If I had to make a choice, it'd have to be Star Wars, wouldn't it? It'd have to be. If I had to choose, it would be Star Wars.
Yeah, the thing.
I don't like choosing.
Yeah.
Was he? That was mean.
I watched Star Wars to death in the late 80s and like start of the 90s. There were just 3 films, and you just watched it to death. And then Star Trek was there, and there were 79 episodes, and there were eventually the 6+ films. Then the Next Generation. There was so much more of it, so it filled a huge gap. And I think it's a difficult one. I can't pick it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Scott, I've got to say, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting Star Trek with you. I have really enjoyed it. I love your enthusiasm about it as well. I thought that was cool. I do like Star Trek. I'm not going to deny that I don't like it. I do like it, rather, shall I say? Yeah, awesome stuff. Thank you so much. A huge thank you to those of you who have been in the chat all the way all this time. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Awesome. That's it for this live stream. Scott, is there anything else you want to say?
No, just live long and prosper.
Look at you. I can't do that. I can't do that. Look at that. Shocking. Yeah, absolutely. I will be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. for Group E of the Star Trek trivia quiz. So the Star Trek trivia quiz. Bloody hell. Hang on. Whoa. Rein it in. I will be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. for the Star Wars trivia quiz. We shall see you then. Take care, stay safe, and goodbye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers.